Johann Sebastian Bach is like a giant in music history. His music is super beautiful and complicated, and it's so good it still sounds amazing hundreds of years later. It really touches your heart. He was a master of music tricks like counterpoint and fugue, and tons of composers who came after him were inspired by him. He changed music forever. Johann Sebastian Bach was born in Germany in 1685. Music was everywhere in his family. His dad was a town musician, so little Johann learned music right away from his dad. Sadly, both his parents died before he turned 10. He went to live with his older brother, Johann Christoph, who played the organ. Living with his brother was super important for Bach. His brother kept teaching him music, showing him how to play the organ and how to write his own music. Bach also learned by copying music from famous composers. This is how his amazing talent really started to grow. Bach started working as a musician when he was a teenager. He played the organ and other instruments in different towns in Germany. These early jobs taught him a lot. He got better at writing music and playing for all sorts of events. Bach always wanted to learn more. He listened to other composers and tried to figure out how they made their music. He even walked for miles just to hear a famous organist named Dietrich Buxtehude play. Learning from others helped Bach find his own special style. In 1708, Bach got a really important job playing the organ and other music for the court in Weimar. This meant he could write and play music for people who really knew music. He wrote a lot of organ music there, including the famous toccata and fugue in D minor. Bach was super creative in Weimar. He tried new things with music, and he became known as an amazing organist who could make up music on the spot. His music from this time shows how good he was getting at counterpoint and fugue. In 1717, Johann Sebastian Bach embarked on a new chapter in his life when he accepted a position at the court of Prince Leopold of Anhalt-Köthen. This was a significant move for Bach, as it provided him with a unique opportunity to focus more on his compositions and less on his duties as an organist, which had previously consumed much of his time. This job gave him more time to write music and try out new ideas. Unlike his previous positions, where he was primarily responsible for church music, at Köthen, Bach was free to explore secular music. This freedom allowed him to experiment with different musical forms and styles, leading to some of his most innovative work. The prince loved music, so he gave Bach everything he needed to make great music. Prince Leopold was an accomplished musician himself and had a deep appreciation for Bach's talent. He provided Bach with a well-equipped orchestra and the resources to create music that would be performed by some of the best musicians of the time. Bach was really happy in Köthen, and he wrote some of his most famous music there, like the Brandenburg Concertos. These concertos are considered masterpieces of the Baroque era and showcase Bach's ability to blend different musical elements into a cohesive and dynamic whole, and some of the Well-Tempered Clavier. This collection of keyboard music is still studied and performed today, demonstrating Bach's profound understanding of harmony and counterpoint. These pieces show how amazing he was at writing for orchestras and for keyboard instruments. His work during the Köthen years laid the foundation for many of his later compositions and solidified his reputation as one of the greatest composers of all time. Sadly, while he was in Köthen, his wife Maria Barbara died. This was a devastating blow for Bach, who had relied on her support and companionship throughout his career. Even though he was heartbroken, Bach kept writing music, finding comfort in it. His ability to channel his emotions into his compositions is a testament to his resilience and dedication to his art. Despite the personal tragedy, the music he created during this period remains some of the most beautiful and enduring in the classical repertoire. In 1723, Johann Sebastian Bach moved to Leipzig to take on the prestigious role of music director at St. Thomas Church. This was a significant turning point in his career and life. This was a big deal. The position was highly respected and came with a lot of responsibilities. Bach was in charge of all the music for the main churches in the city, including St. Thomas and St. Nicholas. He had to oversee the musical activities, conduct performances, and ensure the quality of the music. He wrote music, taught music, and made sure the choir boys learned everything they needed to know. Bach was not just a composer, but also an educator, shaping the next generation of musicians. During his time in Leipzig, Bach wrote an incredible amount of church music, including cantatas, which are vocal compositions with instrumental accompaniment. He also composed motets, which are choral works, and Passions, which are musical settings of the Passion of Christ. One of his most famous works from this period is the St. Matthew Passion, which tells the story of Easter. It is considered one of the greatest pieces of music ever written, showcasing Bach's genius in blending vocal and instrumental music. Even though Bach wrote amazing music in Leipzig, things weren't always easy. He faced numerous challenges and obstacles. He had arguments with people at the church, including disagreements with the town council and other officials about his musical direction and the resources he needed. Bach didn't always have enough money or musicians to perform his works as he envisioned. Financial constraints and a lack of skilled performers were constant issues. As time went on, he also started to have problems with his health. The stress and demands of his position took a toll on him. His eyesight got worse, making it harder to write music. Despite these difficulties, Bach continued to compose and teach, leaving a lasting legacy that continues to inspire musicians and music lovers around the world. Johann Sebastian Bach died in 1750. He was a prolific composer, creating over 1,000 pieces of music during his lifetime. His works included everything from intricate fugues and chorales to grand orchestral suites and concertos. Despite his immense talent and output, Bach's music was not fully appreciated during his lifetime. He left behind music that changed everything. His compositions were complex, innovative, and deeply expressive, laying the groundwork for future generations of musicians and composers. His music was a treasure trove of creativity and technical mastery. People didn't really understand how amazing his music was until many years later. For decades after his death, Bach's music was largely forgotten, overshadowed by the works of his contemporaries and the changing tastes of the musical world. Then, in the 1800s, composers like Felix Mendelssohn rediscovered Bach's music, and everyone realized how brilliant he was. Mendelssohn's revival of Bach's St. Matthew Passion in 1829 was a turning point, sparking a renewed interest in Bach's work and cementing his legacy as a musical genius. Today, Bach is known as one of the greatest composers ever. His influence can be seen in the works of countless musicians and composers who followed him. His music is studied, performed, and revered all over the world. People all over the world still love his music. From concert halls to classrooms, Bach's compositions continue to inspire and move audiences. His music transcends time and culture, resonating with listeners of all ages and backgrounds. You can hear his influence in music written by so many composers, from Mozart and Beethoven to musicians today. Bach's music is timeless. His innovative use of harmony, counterpoint, and musical form set the stage for the development of Western classical music. It's beautiful, powerful, and it makes you think about big ideas. Bach's music has a way of touching the soul, evoking a wide range of emotions and thoughts. It challenges the mind and stirs the heart, making it a profound experience for both performers and listeners. He was a true master of music, and he will always be remembered. His legacy endures not just in the notes he wrote, but in the countless lives he has touched through his music. Johann Sebastian Bach's contributions to the world of music are immeasurable, and his influence will continue to be felt for generations to come.
If you found this exploration of history illuminating, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more insightful content. Let us continue to learn from the past together.